Welcome to this next episode of the Multidimensional Show Talks. Scott Grant is an international spiritual teacher, workshop facilitator, sound healer, and intuitive life coach. Scott works with the wonderful Ascended Masters, Archangels, Arcturians, and Star and Galactic beings. This gives him a deep understanding and knowledge of the 12-dimensional energies and the various realms of spiritual existence and the beings within them. Scott emphasises in his work that identifying the root cause of illness and blockages is the key to the healing process and has the techniques and methods to be able to do this. Enjoy this insightful talk on this episode of the Multidimensional Show and take the opportunity to hear Scott's journey and participate in a channel transmission with the Arcturian beings he is connected to. Today we've got Scott Grant, and Scott runs the Interdimensional Healing Centre for practice, and Scott, you offer healing, channeling, and a host of other things, don't you, at your practice?
I do. It's bit of channeling, some types of healing, and also helping people to, sort of merge with their higher selves and get their lives, get themselves in alignment with their higher divine pathway, really. That's my main aim, for them to really develop the most amazing, loving connection with themselves and with their higher aspect, so they start to experience that feeling of completeness. Yeah,
it's well needed, isn't it? At this time, there's a lot going on, people leading busy lives and not necessarily having the lifestyle to be able to do this by themselves, and all the distractions that are about. Your service is really needed to help people to realign themselves.
Of course. Yeah. At the moment, it's very hard because we've gone through the most wonderful shifts where a lot of our ego aspect has been transformed, transmuted, broken down, and it's leaving a lot of people with, the ego is still there in most of us, including myself, because it's one of those things that will never fully go while you're human. It will go down to a very small amount, but if you had no ego, you wouldn't want to be here anymore. You would not have that. You'd be like, no thank you. And so there's always going to be a little bit of there because it keeps you anchored in this experience. But as we move along, what we're looking to get to, and it very much ties into the Arcturians with why they're here and what they're helping us to do, we're looking to minimize the impact of the ego on ourselves and our lives. And so we become an observer of the ego, observer of the physical self, so that we can truly embody our higher light, and at the same time be really guided by that higher self. Either your higher self, your monad, or that pure essence of God, depending on the level you're at, depending on what energy you can hold.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. I remember going to your sound healing some years ago, and really felt a shift from that. There's an activation, isn't there, in the sound code?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, crystal singing bowls. It's funny, at the moment I don't have any at the moment, so I'm in between the ones I had and the ones I'm going to buy, but they are magical. Crystal singing bowls, they are, something else.
Yeah, so how did you start this, Scott? I'm really interested in, whenever I talk to people, and you yourself as well, it's like, what got you into this? And, what sort of, what was the transition? Did you start to channel sort of naturally? Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Well, the funny thing is, my channeling now is pretty good, to be honest, with regards to because of the stuff I've cleared. But I wasn't a natural channeler. I wasn't. Some people, they're very lucky from a very early age. They're switched on, and their gifts stay there all the way through. I wasn't one of those people. I basically had lots of blocks, lots of childhood issues where I experienced violence and different stuff, which then caused me to close down, switch off my gifts. And so my journey sort of really started spiritually around 2000 or just 1999, where I was doing a lot of sports, running, boxing, swimming, and my joints started to get really bad, really sore. And so I sort of someone mentioned to me about acupuncture, and so I went to an acupuncturist, and from there I said, is there anything I can do to help myself? And he directed me to Reiki. And so then my journey with Reiki started. I went to like a 6-week. It was very interesting. It was funny because as soon as I did, it was funny, even though I wasn't switched on in the way I am now, I took to Reiki very easily. There was no resistance in me to anything they said, no resistance in me to anything they were talking about. Some people go along and it's all sorts of things. They get reactions to the idea of being a higher aspect, a higher divine energy. But yeah, not to say that I didn't go through some serious deep clearing and processing, but the idea and the practice itself, I really took to it. And then from there I went to a few psychic development circles, and from there it sort of developed more and more. Then I worked for Diana Cooper and Kathy Croswell, the sort of spiritual teachers, authors, and that was about 7 years ago, and that introduced me more to the angelic side of stuff. Even though I was working a lot with higher selves and ascended masters, I wasn't so much working with the angels then. But anybody that works with angels, as you well know, you fall in love with them. Fall is the wrong term, but you go into a space of the deepest love for that energy.
Yeah.
So and it's just developed from there. And was I a natural channeler? No, that is the honest truth. Am I now? Yes, but then definitely not. So it just shows that if you persevere and you work on enough of your stuff, it was funny because when I first started, when angels would try and come near me, or ascended masters, they would sort of almost like, king's not the right term, but they would hit my energy, and they'd get pushed back, because it was almost like the way my mind was structured. Because the way how your energy is structured with your mind is determined by your experience in the past. If you've had a lot of trauma, and I'm sure you know this, a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of very difficult times, then your mind is structured in such a way to defend you. And so obviously your defense mechanisms and that sort of stuff. And so the structure of my mind was just all spiking, all sorts of stuff. And so when it came to me embodying, say, my higher self, or channeling very closely, an ascended master or guide, I found it very hard, because it would just, king's the term I used to get. If you bang two bits of metal together, they make that king, king, king. It would make that funny noise. And what's interesting as well is, in this era we're going through now, this new paradigm, there's more people with tinnitus than ever before. And the tinnitus that a lot of them are feeling is exactly what I had. And so it is where you are not quite aligning, and there's a resistance, and almost like it is a reactionary sound to the inability to really connect with that higher energy. And so it's causing, now tinnitus obviously is something that people can have, to do with sound, but a lot of when it comes to the spiritual development, a lot of the tinnitus we're getting now has nothing to do with that.
That makes sense.
It's something very different, and the doctors do not know how to approach this, because what they would normally find tinnitus is in that they'd say this is not healable. For a lot of people that have got it, it's nothing to do with damage of the eardrums. It is more to do with some sort of interference between their higher aspect and their lower. It's like you get an old phone and you used to get it's that. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. And it's good that people find out about this, because once you start to realign and get your break down your minds, because for everybody that's here, okay, and this is very relevant to the Arcturians. The Arcturians are very much working with each of us to work with our I am presence. Now, I'm sure you all know what the I am presence is, but if I give you a brief description, The I am presence is your pure divine spark as created at the time of your creation. Okay, when you were brought into being, because as much as we are eternal in the sense that we are God, if you think of it this way, okay, now people talk about the Divine Trinity. Now that's very relevant, because the Divine Trinity, it isn't a Catholic term, it is an explanation of the inner child, which your inner child at its purest form is your I am presence. Now the Arcturians, they're working with us at the moment, okay, to really help to connect and to develop what you call your Divine Trinity. Now, when you go one step beyond that, you've got the Divine Diamond, but I'll explain the Divine Trinity first, and then I'll go through the Divine Diamond. Now, the Divine Trinity is you, your pure essence, the I am presence. So, most people, when they hear about the inner child, we associate it with the part of ourselves that's gone through trauma, that's gone through pain, that's gone through misery. That's what we associate it with. But truly, your inner child, that is only the 3D aspect, okay, and the lower 4D. But your inner child really is your I am presence, because it's the pure divine spark. And if we have time, you know, what we could do is we could do 2 little meditations at the end, if you like, okay. One could be so I could let people feel their pure spark, their I am presence, and the other one, then we could then go from there. We can go into the same space actually, then we'll connect with the Arcturians for a lovely clearing of whatever needs to clear to go into that space.
Sounds good.
So you can feel that pure essence. And so, so every person on this planet, if they chose to connect in their highest way possible, what they would be looking at doing is they'd be looking at transmuting, transforming, breaking down as much of their 3D aspect, you know, their lower thought forms, reactions, patterns, templates, veils of illusion and mindsets as much as they possibly can, and so then they can start to truly embody their energy. Now, ascension, true ascension, is not about going up, it's about clearing the lower trauma, the lower aspects, the lower patterns and templates and mindsets, so that your higher self can then step into your energy. Okay, and so now what I do is I basically will talk about one thing, I'll go on to another, then I'll come back. Okay, so bear with me. So basically you have for each person that's on this planet, you have a higher self, which will be something like, my higher self is Lord Rakotski, another person's might be Lady Nada, another person's might be Saint Germain, but that's your higher self, okay? Beyond that, you've got your monad. Now, your higher self is the higher aspect of your soul, and your soul is the aspect of yourself that connects with your I am presence, that is your divine blueprint, your divine aspect. Now, everybody's God, okay, and we are all part of God, but each person is created and given the opportunity to experience this reality as God, as in given the same gifts and the same energy to work with. Now, obviously, God has a head start. And when I say God, in case anybody listens and they find it hard to hear the word God, I'm talking about the word that goes back to ancient Germanic. It goes back to Indian tradition of either the word Hu or the word Gut. Because the word Gut, which is G-O-H-D-T or G-O-D-H-T, it meant divine spirit. Now, over time with Christianity and Catholicism, as you know, if you look into Catholicism, you'll find that most of what they have is borrowed from other traditions. You know, the picture of God is borrowed from Zeus, from the Greeks, and different parts. And so, you know, for me, it's important to recognize that the word God isn't synonymous with religion. You know, for me, it's beyond that. It's something, you know, it's like, you know, man's made in the image of God, but God is not made in the image of man.
Yeah.
And so we have us down here, and that you can imagine that's us, okay? You've got God up here. In between there, okay, you've got 2 energies. You've got the Alpha and the Omega. The Alpha and the Omega is the beginning and the end. Okay, and we call it the feminine and the masculine. That's what we call it. Okay, now these two energies are the energies of creation. Are they what God is, or are they an extension of God? Now they are an energy that God uses to create, but God is beyond these energies. God is not just these energies. God is, that's why I say about the Divine Trinity is the beginning point, where you master your inner child in a sense of, I don't mean taking control, you know, it is the opposite way around. What I've found on my journey with my teachings and my teaching is that for each of us, what we're looking to do is to become completely vulnerable in ourselves and completely open, and to be able to completely allow ourselves to become the flow. Is that scary? Yes, because when you let go of control and the aspect of yourself, it leaves you feeling very open, very vulnerable, and very gentle. And as we all know, this world can be quite a hard place to be in, with it being at times a very hard place to live. Okay, so you've got, when at the moment, each of us who are on this pathway, we are working towards, if we choose, to connect with our higher selves. As you evolve and you move further along, you then move to connect with your monad. Now your higher self is your individual soul aspect. Okay, so that will have within there 12 times 12 aspects. So in total there'll be 144 aspects to that part of your soul. But what makes it even more complicated, okay, not complicated, but you know, you'd always find, I don't know whether you found this with people talking, they talk a lot about 12s, 3s, 7s, 12s. 13 is mentioned. Now 13 is, the 13th realm is the realm of God, the realm of the divine source light. It's where we come from, and it's a realm that we can connect with, but it's very rare you'll work with it in this physical capacity, because it's just too high for the energy we're in. Okay, and so basically when it comes to our journey at the moment, each one of us, with the help of the Arcturians, who are working to help us to connect with our I Am presence, which starts in the 7th dimension, and so they are helping us to reconnect and embody this. Now the human body itself, okay, at its highest level will only ever be 5th dimensional. That's all it can ever be, because once you move beyond the 5th, what you've got left with there is no longer a body, it is just pure light. Okay, but what makes it wonderful and magical is that even though our bodies, you know, no one that we know, okay, at the moment, unless they're very good at stepping down, are 5th dimensional in the purest essence, because if they were, you wouldn't be able to see them with your normal eyes, unless you've got very developed psychic eyes. You would see them more psychically. It's like if you go for a walk in nature, and I don't know where you've done this, and someone tells you where an elemental is, you can walk over and you'll put your hands into their energy and you'll feel there. You'll feel the change in the energy. Now they are 5th. Some are 6th, some are 7th. To say they're all 5th is not true, but generally the ones you'll meet will be 5th. Now you can't see them because their energy, it is still a body, but it's a body in a sense that we can't quite comprehend, because it is a body that is so light in energy that it doesn't have a physical density of our body. Our body has a physical density because it is very much anchored still, you know, regardless of what's being said, there's a 3D aspect still to each of us. Doesn't mean it's in control, doesn't mean that it's, you know, anything that's overwhelming us, but for some people it still is, because it's a hard journey. But what it means is that the 3D aspect is still anchoring us here in this 3D reality. Now, are we going to shift? You know, the truth is we could shift any day, and the 3D could fall away and the 4D would be there. But as it happened, not yet, but it will. But it's a hard one, because there's so many different things that come into play when it comes to this shift that's going to happen. And so I will go back to where I was. So we are working to develop that connection. And so for each man and each woman, the Arcturians are helping you to master your connection to both your feminine and masculine aspect. Now, where it gets confusing is, as human beings, we are very good at compartmentalizing the idea of being a man or being a woman. You know, because we compartmentalize everything. If you look, I did psychology at university, and instead of them looking at all these different ideas of humanism, you know, behaviorism and all that kind of stuff, instead of looking and thinking each one of those, when you put it together, makes perfect sense for a human as a whole, they separate them. And so they're all arguing that this one's right, this one's right, this one's right. The truth is, with most things, if you take a bit of each thing, what you will find is that when you take the ideas of many of these wonderful concepts, you will get a complete picture of the human consciousness, of how we work, how we react. And as you know, how we react, how we work, how we interact is determined by what particular dimension we connect to, and we are really experiencing at that time. You know yourself. We can at any given time, you can be in the most amazing place. Something triggers you from your childhood, brings you down. Next thing you know, you're back in your patterns, which you thought had long gone or weren't affecting you anymore. And it's very much the same with the idea of your patterns, the way you experience the world, whether you're experiencing it from the 3D, from the 4D and the 5D. Now, when you know you have stopped experiencing it from the 4th and the 5th is when you judge. Now, if I explain the dimensions in a very brief sense, 3D is materialism, it's narcissism, it's all of those types of isms, capitalism, all that sort of stuff is very much 3D. The 4D is self-love. Now, most people's idea of self-love is limited, is the right term, okay, because each dimension has 12 levels, and so there's 12 levels of awareness, 12 levels of ascension within each dimension. That's why it takes a long time to go through them. Now, the 4th dimension is self-love. The 5th dimension is global oneness through love, and so that is moving from the focus on the self to the focus on the many. And when you know you're in that space of self-love, it's where you're mainly focused on how much you love yourself and focusing on working with yourself. Now, that is good to a point, but at a certain point with your development, and this is where the Arcturians come in as well and help you with, you've got to go from the self-love until the global oneness through love, because true happiness, true what I'd call divine alignment and divine joy. Now, you get two types of joy, okay? You get joy of the physical, which is based around who I am, what I earn, how my relationship's going, what job I have, and how well my life's going. That very much is determined by your experience of your reality, more of a stimulus response to your experience. Then you move, okay, to divine joy. Divine joy is an energy that is pure bliss and pure happiness, irrespective of what's going on and how you feel. You know, how well your life's going and all that kind of stuff. That energy is joyful, blissful and happy regardless. And the Arcturians are coming forward with us to help us to experience bliss consciousness. And bliss consciousness is where love and joy merge and become one. Okay? And so each one of us has the opportunity now, because the veils of illusion between the various dimensions is very much gone now. Between the 3rd and the 7th dimension, we really can, you know, with our choice of focus and also with practice and learning techniques, we really can then merge and become one with these higher aspects. But like I said, the human body can only get to the 5th. It's not quite there yet, because we're not in that space. We're just not. But there's nothing stopping you, with a bit of practice, learning how to be. And you know, I'm not a religious man, but I like some of the sayings. You know, the saying from Jesus: "Be in the world, but not of the world."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say that
That's
a lot.
very it's a very good saying, and it's a wonderful explanation. It's where you are anchored physically, but you are in a higher space, watching life from a place of joy, bliss, and also complete compassion. And so you are no longer judging those around you. You're no longer judging your life, how it is. You are seeing things from a higher place where the dramas of life doesn't drag you in. And is it easy to do? It is easy to do if you get this out of the way. But it is tricky. It is tricky. But with practice, with mindfulness and that sort of stuff, you can do it. But I'd go further and say mindfulness was very good going back to the old paradigm where we were very much focused from the mind perspective, 2012 beyond. But the one thing I find with people that come to me that have done mindfulness or do mindfulness, what basically happens is your mind, okay, your ego, okay, let's talk about what the mind is. Now, the mind is nothing more, and it's the level we experience it at, nothing more than either a positive or negative ego, because your mind itself is created through your spirit's interaction with the physical. And so as it interacts with the physical, it is then formed with relation to those experiences. And so whether it's formed in a positive way, whether it's formed in a negative way, is determined on one or two things: how you react and what it is you experience. And so for each person, okay, we are looking now to become very aware of, for one, what the ego is, and the Arcturians are very much working to help us with this. For one, what the ego is, how the ego works, how we can identify when the ego is coming in, and how we can recognize the best way to deal with this. Now, your ego, okay, in its basic, what's the word here? What it is looking to really experience and what it really wants is love. One of the quickest ways to really disengage your ego is to call in one of the angels of love, Mother Mary, Chamyo Charity, Kuan Yin, any of the ones you know, Lady Nada, any of your higher selves, and to completely embody that part of yourself in the purest love. The minute you do that, your ego then becomes starts to disengage and starts to let go of whatever it is trying to focus on or trying to create. Because whether it is indirect or direct, your ego itself is looking to create for itself or bring to itself the deep love and that feeling of being wanted. Because you know yourself, most things we have that go wrong in our relationships with our parents, with our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and everything else, it normally comes where we either don't feel like we're being loved or we're not being heard or listened to. And that's when our defense mechanisms come in and things can get ugly, where we start to react. Okay, now when it comes to working with the Arcturians, they will work with you to help you to really heal your inner child issues and really to connect with your I am presence, and so you can truly recognize who you are. Now, like I said, I go around in circles, but I will come back to where I was before. Now, when it comes to divine diamonds, okay, now, even though each one of us is God and connected to God, God gave us a special gift, and he created us in his image. And when he created us in his image, he created the I am presence, our pure divine spark. And so each of us now, let me just turn this off so I don't ignore that. I thought it was silent. So each of us on our journey now, depending on the level you're at, you are either directly or indirectly working, connecting with your I am presence on some level. Now, as I said, your pure aspect to your I am presence, it starts in the 7th, but you can still connect with it in the lower dimensions, where it's either the 3D aspect that's gone through the trauma, the pain and that sort of stuff, or in the 4th and the 5th and the 6th. But the purest aspect is in the 7th. That's where you really connect with the pure bliss consciousness of that energy. And now for each person at the moment, the Arcturians are coming forward, and the reason they're coming forward at the moment so strongly is because at no other time have we ever been able to connect with this pure light and have the ability to connect to these higher dimensions in the way that we do now. And so for each of us, we are going through the most wonderful opportunity to start to become our higher selves and start to really be in the flow of our higher pathways. Now, what is tricky for a lot of people at the moment, okay, is that the journey we are on at the moment with regards to our pathways, okay, is that how we used to manifest and how we used to create was very much a mind orientated thing. We all remember The Secret. We've all seen The Secret. Yeah. If for those that have joined us, if you've not seen The Secret, it is a wonderful documentary all about, you know, how you focus and how you feel determines your reality. Now, prior to 2012, the cycle on the planet was masculine. Now, the masculine planet cycle is very different to what we have with regard what we have now, because it is very much is more of an aspect that is more. You can focus on saying, this is, I'll give you an example. Prior to 2012, you could say, I want 12 people on my course, and the chances of that happening would be would be, you know, 9 times out of 10 that would be the case. Now you move into the feminine frequency, it is very different. It works in a different way now, where with the feminine, it works in such a way that it's not so embodied and so physical and so left brain, whereas the masculine energy, which each person, whether you're a woman or a man, you have both the feminine aspect and the masculine aspect. Regardless, if it was the case that each you know, a woman was just a woman and a man was just the masculine, okay, then the woman would only have the right side of her brain and the man would only have his left. Okay, that would be the truth. If a woman was purely feminine and a man was purely masculine, then there would be no need for the two sides of the brain. And now, as we know, every person has two sides of the brain, unless of course you've had some sort of, you know, genetic abnormality at birth and that sort of stuff. But generally, it is the case. And so for each person at the moment, what you're looking to do is you're looking to work with, whether it's the Arcturians, your higher self, your guides, to deal with any traumas and any issues that you have that stop you being able to accept both your masculine and feminine aspect of your divine self. And so this means working on any issues you have to do with mother, sister, relationships to partners, anybody that's been in your life that would have been an experience of the feminine. And then on the flip side, you've also got, you have to now work with, you don't have to, that's the wrong term, but if you're looking to ascend and looking to truly hold your light, on the other side, you then have to look at any of the issues you have to do with whoever in your life, in the present and the past, has represented the masculine.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it is wonderful.
Full of learning, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah. It is. And it's yeah. And you've got so many different wonderful beings at the moment that you can, you know, a lot of people at the moment, you know, feel at times that they're not being loved, not being supported physically because of whatever else is going on. But you've got the most amazing team of angels, of ascended masters, of Arcturians, of Syrians, of beings from Orion. You know, the list can go on. There's so many that can really help you to really feel loved and to really embody that higher light, you know, only if you ask. Your higher self is always there for you, for each one of you, you know, ready to help you, to love you, to guide you, and to do whatever he or she can to help you on this journey.
Beautiful.
So,
yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. The more you work with them.
Yeah. And how would you describe the Arcturians? Are they from, would you say they are located in a certain position our constellation or in our galaxy? Just for those listening.
Yeah, of course. Later. The Arcturians are basically, they're located in a very, very big star just outside of our own constellation, but in our galaxy, in a beautiful, sort of star called the Star of Arcturus. That is their base from where they work. Obviously, if you look at the size of the Star of Arcturus in relation to our planet, it is massive.
Yeah,
it is so big. It's massive. And basically, Arcturians are they are emissaries of the divine. They work with each planet at a certain point when they're ready to evolve and ready to really embody and connect with their I am presence and hold that light. They are what you would call the architects of this galaxy. So they work very closely with God when it comes to him working to create a planet, a solar system, and in particular our galaxy. And so they've worked together with other beings also as well to help to structure and to develop and to bring into existence much of what we experience now on this earth and also anybody else in this universe. And so they very much, if you think of it this way, okay, each person, each being, depending on the level at which they are connecting and which they are developed, will determine how close they are to God and how easy it is they find it to understand and just be that pure divine plan of God, that pure essence of God. Now let me explain that. Now with the Arcturians, okay, they basically work with God directly. So they are very much connected with the 13th realm. How I understand the model of dimensions for us is that there's 12 dimensions, okay. Now there is talk of 144. Now the one thing that my guides have said is people get confused between dimensions and levels of conscious awareness, okay. Now as I said before, there are 12 levels of consciousness within each dimension going up. If you add them together, 12 times 12 is 144.
Some people talk about them as frequencies, don't they?
Yeah. They are frequencies, yeah. They are octaves, yeah, they are, exactly, that's what they are. They're octaves of light. But what people do is they then get confused with saying that they are dimensions as such, and what they are is they are parts of a dimension. And so they're parts of experience of that dimension, 12 aspects. And so the Arcturians, they very much connect with the 13th realm and work with that energy. And so their ability with regards to healing, their abilities with regards to what they understand and what they can do is quite amazing. You could work with the Arcturians for the rest of your life, and any beings, Syrians, the Pleiadians. The gift, the knowledge, the wisdom they have is something you could learn for the rest of your life, and you'd only have learned less than a small fraction of a percentage, because there's so much to learn. But with the Arcturians themselves, because of how high they are working directly with the purest light of God, and they have the purest connection. And so in reality, they basically really are just God, because they are so highly connected and they are so high spiritually that their consciousness is literally, we've heard the term at one, okay, and we get oneness every now and then, but their oneness would be so high that it'd be so amazing that they would literally just be that pure source light of God. And so when you're working with the Arcturians, you are literally working with the purest source light of God.
It's like working with the angelic realm.
It is, and beautiful. What's interesting is, and what gets confusing is, some of the angels that we call angels are Arcturian.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I've wondered that in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, because you know, the ones I know that are Arcturian, okay, Archangel Michael, okay, Mother Mary, and so the list goes on, and it's but it, you know, it doesn't matter what we call them. You know, the main thing is that we know they're there and they're ready to help us. Because, you know, some people would argue that might be right, that may be wrong, and for me, it's how I've experienced it. So whether it's right or whether it's wrong is, you know, whether that's subjective or not doesn't matter. But the main thing is we have these beautiful beings that are the purest love, the purest light, and only work to serve and from a place of compassion. And they are always there to help, always. Even when you feel there is no hope, you call on them, you ask them to work with your energy to bring you back into alignment. It might take a few hours, but by the time they're finished, you will feel so loved and so held, and it will bring back your faith and your belief that they are there to help you.
The human mind likes to label things, doesn't it?
Massively. Yeah.
I always find that interesting. Like I say, it doesn't matter whether you refer to them as angels or ETs or higher aspects. It's what they represent and what they are that is really important, not what we choose to call them in an attempt to understand the nature of their being.
No, of course. And it's funny, whenever you talk to these higher beings, they don't like to talk about themselves. You know, because it's like, you know, I'm human, so I still like to put labels so then people can understand it. But at times you can ask them, you know, about the names and stuff, and for them it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, it really does not matter. And it's like, you know, they'll talk about themselves for so long, but then they'll very much move to what's more important, and that is talking about what you need to understand, what is important for you right now, and what is going to, you know, because for each of us, I touched on service a minute ago, servitude. For each of us, you know, our ultimate goal is to be of service, you know, first of all, to connect with ourselves and developing our own relationship, because that's very, very important. Otherwise, it becomes a very imbalanced experience whereby we can then give too much of ourselves across. And as we do that, then we lose who we are because our energy becomes very, very sort of weakened. But to experience that pure bliss and that pure joy in this reality, it is all about giving and servitude and love and compassion. And once we work from that place and we have that most wonderful connection, and we do it from the right place, the joy that you feel and the level to which your heart opens and connects and helps others is just incredible, really.
It's giving from the right place, isn't it? A place of fullness, not a place of fear or lack.
Or you're trying to replace something that's missing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Has anybody else got any other questions? We're coming to the end of this section, so we'll open it up to anybody.
Yeah, if anyone wants to pipe up.
Yeah. You can talk now or just chat in the chat box. Leslie.
Hey, Leslie.
So you pop up. Do you have a question?
No, that was a mistake.
Hi there.
Marjorie,
Oh,
sorry, go on.
Did you have a question, Leslie?
No.
Oh,
sorry, didn't.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Should we take a short break before we go into?
Yeah, we'll take a short break, and if anybody has any questions, we can pose them before we start the meditation. Maybe if Scott's
of course,
Scott's
whatever questions you have.
Yeah,
my guys will sort of
Yeah. All right then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so should we take 5 minutes comfort break and then we'll come back?
Thank you for having us with you today. We feel truly honoured and blessed to be with you today and having this experience. We, the Arcturians, are so pleased at the development of yourselves and with humanity as a whole at this time with regards to the ascension shifts that are happening. We are here and ready for everybody who truly wants to understand who they are and why they are here. This next stage of evolution for each person will very much be heart-centered. And what we mean by this is that for each person moving forward who truly wants to experience a blissful, heavenly experience here in the earthly realm, the key to this is love and working from the heart. Now we would like for each person who is here with us now, or who may join or watch this later, to start this journey of connecting with and healing the heart, giving yourself the wonderful opportunity to really experience the beauty of the blissful oneness through love of the heart. So, if we ask each of you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. For each of you, we are going to create a portal of light in front of you. Now, this portal of light in front of you is the fourth dimensional aspect of your heart. In this space, you will experience the pure essence of the fourth dimensional aspect of your heart. We would like to do this for a few minutes, and once we have done this, we would like then to talk to each person to see what they experienced. This will be very good for anybody who watches this later, so they get an idea of how this will feel and what they should do to let this go, any blockage go. Okay, so ask now for any cords and attachments that are stopping you from stepping fully into the fourth dimensional aspect of your heart to be cut and removed. Your portals, gateways are ready now. When you're ready, just imagine yourself stepping forward into this portal. If it makes it easier for you, imagine that you have a door in front of you and that you open the door and walk through. Some of you will feel resistance, but if you ask for this to be lifted, so you can experience the beautiful energy of the fourth dimension which is self-love, so that you know how this feels in the future, moving forward for your experience of this beautiful, loving space. Okay, so each one of you are now in this space of the fourth dimension. It can take a few minutes to adjust, so if it feels a little intense, do not worry. Okay. So if I can start to now bring your focus and your awareness back into this moment, back into the physical, and back into your bodies. David or Rachel, if I could ask for you to please open up each person's mic so I can quickly talk to each person to see how they experience that. Hello?
Hi, can you hear us?
Hi.
I can.
A few more mics to open up.
Do you want me to open up everybody's mic?
Oh, yes, please. This is different to what I thought they'd do, but it's very cool because each person is going to experience these different dimensions.
Okay, everybody's unmuted.
Okay. So, Rachel, if I start with you, what did you feel?
Well, I sensed my body moving through this portal. Felt quite visceral. I felt myself floating and moving through it, and going up and down, and kind of that motion, and then settling. And yeah, soon after that, I felt that love, felt that self-love, the fourth dimension, and saw some images, you know, in that. So I think there's definitely something working. I felt pressure in my third eye as well.
Lovely. Thank you. David, what did you experience in there?
I had a sense, rather of going through anything, of going in to a space that was both infinitely small and infinitely large at the same time. Kind of like kind of my inner self and everything at the same time. Rather than going anywhere, it felt like a shift of perspective. And what came to me was that some of the blockages that I have, which are preventing me from moving forward, are very much related to other people, feminine people in my life, and that I need to let go of attachment to expectation of how people will behave because of past experience. And a message that came, which I've heard before, I've heard it before, was that I need to move away from mind-centeredness to heart-centeredness, because the mind likes to dwell on what it's familiar with and expectations and patterns, whereas the heart wants to live in the present and doesn't have any judgment or attachment, and literally deals with things as they are rather than how they have been or how we think they're going to be.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So Tanya, how was that?
Very beautiful. I just discovered recently that I have a Arcturian Star seed family.
Oh, beautiful.
That, because also, so I received. It was similar to a shift in perspective. And it was just some channel words that came through for some of us that's actually been on the path for a long time. That I am naturally a heart-centered person, and so it's like I don't feel it like those feelings because I'm already in it, and so it was like I need to own that, because that's what all the clients have been telling me for the last so long, and more so saying, oh wow, I really feel the pure love of your heart. And I just want to, and I just want to cry in your presence because I really feel that support. And so that's what I received, was that I need to own that. And it was just really beautiful just receiving that, because I think for me it's been like, I think I don't see my gifts like other people see it. And I think there's many of us that,
of course,
you know, we struggle with that self-worth, self-value, particularly like, you know, I'm sort of putting my stake in the ground and going to be launching my business.
Oh, beautiful.
And it was like not to worry about the money, because people are feeling my heart space. They'd want to, you know, it's from an energy of service.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, I cut loads of cords around family and money and perceptions, old stories. And it was like, yeah, it's just like I need to just own that heart-centered being that I am. And from that space, continue creating the business, and all is well. So, yeah, I felt loads of fresh in my third eye, but it was more, it was other thing. In the beginning, I was like wanting to sit in a particular posture to align with the energy. And what came through was relax. There's no need to sit in a particular way, to be in a particular way. Just be comfortable and just sort of relax into that energy. And you can sit any way you want, because how you sit or how you act is not going to affect what I'm attracting, because I'm already rooted in that heart-centered space. So it's like, just take your, you know, for other people, they need that alignment and needing to sit, but it said, like, no, for you, just relax. You're so highly strong about doing things the right way. Let it go. So I just sort of laid back on the thing. I was like, you know, it was really a beautiful experience. So thank you so much for sharing on the Facebook. I suppose I was just meant to see it at 11:59 and just log on.
Well, thank you for joining us.
So thank you so much for this gift today.
Oh, you're so welcome.
2nd of November. Thank you so much, Scott and Rachel. And I didn't even know about the show until 11:50. Yeah. 55. So hello, my welcome. Hello, my starseed families.
Yeah.
Rachel, Scott. You know.
It's lovely to meet you, Tanya.
Same here.
You do have a beautiful heart.
Yeah, lovely.
We seem to have lost the others.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought they've gone. Maybe they've got to get. Yeah.
I think you scared them, Scott, when you said
maybe. They're on the spot where they.
I know. So I know. They're both. I think Leslie's. I know them, but I think they might be both my students. But one of them's not. They might have had to go to work. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered if it was when you said about having to come on and say what you were experiencing and how you were feeling.
Yeah. Marjorie laughed.
Yeah.
People are afraid to use their voice, to make their voice count.
What I'll do is I'll talk to them afterwards. So yeah, that's fine. So who is ready for another experience? This time we're going to connect with your pure inner child. That's what they're saying to me. And then the Arcturians are going to come round and give you the most wonderful healing.
Yes.
I'm up for that. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Right. I will mute Tanya and us again.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Background interference. And then the floor is all yours, Scott, again.
Thank you for participating in the last meditation. We are so pleased that you experienced what you did, and this brought you so much joy. We would now like for you to again step through the same gateway and portal. As you enter the portal, we will bring to you your inner child, but not the inner child you know that has experienced trauma and pain, but the pure light of your I Am presence. We will always also help for you to connect with the sacred energies of the Omega and the Alpha, and to connect and create the Divine Trinity and the Divine Diamond connection towards the end. We are coming forward now to surround each of you to make this the most wonderful experience for each of you. So when you are ready, please step forward through the portal into this higher divine space. As you enter into the portal, each of us will connect and give you a blessing. Then you will connect with your pure divine spark, your beautiful divine essence. From there, we will connect you with the divine sacred Trinity energy, and eventually then connect you with the higher divine aspect of Source. So relax and enjoy. You may have stuff come up as you make this connection. Simply acknowledge, accept, and hand this over and surrender this to us, and we will lift this from you. Okay, so we start now to bring your awareness back into your bodies and back into the room. Say thank you to the Arcturian High Council, your I Am Presence, and Mother, Father, God. And start now to bring your awareness back out of the portal and back into your bodies. Hello. So we'll start with you, Tanya. How was that?
Very visceral. I could feel a buzzing of energy, and I think it was like some sort of activation. Initially there was loads of cold energy, and then there was just loads of heat. And it was just a sense of, and there was loads of physical pain. I had loads of physical pain that I offered to my Arcturian family in my own. I was like, I offer this to you, I release it. It was just really comforting knowing that this pain came up in my womb area. And I was just, so initially I was sitting down, and then I just stand up, and then I sat down and then I had a bowl of oats. And then it was just this energy of like blessing the bowl of oats with my inner child of my I Am Presence, and knowing, that light of my inner child, my I Am Presence, is with me always. I created a space. It's like in my heart space.
Oh, lovely.
And just blessing the food, just with that sort of intention. I can be nourished through all the meals I eat with the light of my inner child and I Am Presence, and but it was very, very visceral, completely different from the first experience.
Oh yeah.
So thank you. Wow.
You're
thank
welcome.
You, Scott.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Tanya. So David, how was that?
It was good. I got a sense that I often don't act on impulses and things I feel like I should be doing from a place of fear, and that the child in me would play and use its imagination and not worry about adult consequences. It's hard to put into words what came to me, but it was kind of a sense that if you're acting out of love, don't hold back, because love begets love. So if you're fearful of the outcome of something, because not to be, effectively, that you can have what you want and you can rectify past situations as long as you're coming from a place of love and acting from that space. You don't need to be fearful of the consequences, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Rachel, how was that?
Beautiful. Went through that portal, but it felt different. As Tanya was saying, there's quite a lot to cover. I felt, I sort of settled into the experience, and it took a few minutes, and the mind went off on different tangents, but kept sort of mindful and present, and I felt that I am present, and I sort of connected with that. The mind wanted to engage and go, right, do it this way and follow this structure, and I sort of had to keep letting go of that need to control it and do it right. So I let go and surrendered, and I felt a very nice, peaceful state. And later on, I had this sense that there were beings around me and hands around me, and beings behind me to my back, and they were sort of giving activation and healing. I got a really tangible sense of tingling around my head, especially around the left hand side. There was something there that needed to be healed or activated, and there's an impression of things being activated, new gifts being activated, or abilities. There was also the insight that I can come from a heart-centered space, and I've got a lot to offer, and to believe in myself and to know myself, actually, more than just believe in myself, know myself, because knowing yourself is actually is the springboard for everything. Once you really know your true nature, then that there are no obstacles, and from that loving heart-centered space, I can do a lot of good and have a lot of positive results, and to not hold back. Where I may have held back before, second guessed myself. I thought there was something else, but maybe I'm not meant to mention it. But yeah, there was just that real sense of like integration, and a sense of being connected to all, that I am present. So yeah, I felt that very strongly.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I like the way you talked about knowing over believing, because believing is a mindset, whereas knowing is connecting to your higher divine self. And at some point, for any person that's on this journey and is going to make that shift, the beliefs we hold, we have to let go of and move into a place of knowing. Knowing is pure divine alignment, whereas beliefs is basically the structure of who we are, with how our mind is structured and formed. And what is interesting as well is, the Arcturian guys want to talk to you again in a second, but I'll be quick. What is interesting with moving forward with regards to the development for each of us is that when you touched on the belief and the knowing, we have to get to a stage where we're willing to get to a place of reset. And when we get to a place of reset is where we see, because the thing is with beliefs, okay, and this ties into the mind itself as well, your mind is literally made up of all these different beliefs, whether they're positive or negative. And at some point, to truly expand, to truly become in alignment and be at one, the fourth dimensional aspect of the mind, which I mentioned before, which is either positive or negative, is made up of these beliefs. And you've got to get to a stage where you move to a place of knowing, a place of being, and not to a place of being structured according to your past experiences and what you believe according to those. And so what you said about the knowing is incredible, because at some stage people do make that shift into knowing, and as you do that, what basically happens is your mind will keep trying to pull you in. You're going to knowing, it'll try to bring you back into your beliefs. So interesting point, and it really sort of, you both made very interesting points, very talked about stuff, all three of you, so it's amazing. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I resonated with the golden light as well, what Tanya said. I sense golden light as well, so that was interesting.
Well, what's an interesting one is the higher divine aspect of love is gold. And so when we connect with gold, we are connected with a high divine aspect. When it comes to the divine lights of creation, you've got 7 divine lights of original creation. So you've got the blue, yellow, orange, red, green, but that then can be pink too. So it is your rainbow colours, really. But what is an interesting one is you've got the divine lights of creation, but then you've got the heart of God, the heart of the divine. Now the heart of the divine is once again separate to the divine lights of creation, because the heart of God itself is the point to which everything is created, but the divine lights of creation are tools that are given for each of us to be able to maneuver our way through the experience and to understand divine will, divine love, divine trust, divine strength, and so forth. And so for each of us, we're on a journey of mastering those various rays of light, which incidentally make up the various chakras within the body.
Yeah. Come across that idea before. The law of one material talks about mastering each of the chakras, and each one represents an aspect of our being. Moving through them to get back to kind of the Godhead state.
And like I said before, it really depends on who you are, what level you're at, and what you really want to achieve. Now, not everybody is going to get back to the Godhead in this life, because some people, it is a journey and a half to get back to the Godhead. It really is tricky because the level of mastery of your patterns and overcoming the mind and allowing the mind to go. I was meditating years ago. This was probably 5 years ago, and I was shown at that point where I could go then, and I just went, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to let go of that part of who I am. And as I can do it now to a greater extent, not completely, because it's still, the mind is the most amazing chameleon that will reform itself in a way that you might even realize that it's come back in again. Your mind is both beautiful, amazing, and superly intelligent, in the way that it can reform itself. But like I said, when it comes to working on this journey, if you learn to truly love yourself and to truly become love and to be love, be in that loving space, and talk to your mind, your aspect, like I'm talking to you guys here, because your mind, the various aspects of your ego, it is part of who you became through your experience. It is part of who you are. It is an extension, like an app is an extension of a mobile phone or Windows software, but it is part of who you are. And you hear about destroying the ego. Now you can do it that way, but if you go on a journey of rigorously destroying and breaking down the ego in that way, what you will find is you will feel very separate from yourself. But if you go about it in both ways of, transforming it, transmuting it, and the parts that will not let go and are going to resist will eventually have to go. But if you work from that place of love and connecting and integrating, what basically happens is, when you do truly work with that shut there, sorry about that. When you do truly work with that divine aspect of yourself, lost myself there when Tanya came in. Let me get back to where I was. So yeah, when it comes to working with your ego, when you work with it in such a way through love and through compassion, and you truly accept all of the aspects of who you are, and you truly love them, what basically happens is, as you do this, you then become so much more compassionate externally. Because the only way you'll ever be truly compassionate externally is by being truly compassionate internally. Because it is the only way that you'll ever become. Because we can pretend we're compassionate, and you can pretend you're loving and you're kind. When I say pretend, I mean the mind takes hold of it and it starts to then run with a ball of love and compassion. But really what it's doing is it's loving a person because of what they're doing. It's loving because it makes them feel good. It's loving because it fills a void of feeling empty, lacking of love and everything else. And yeah, I could do a show on here just about ego, just really going through, because it's fascinating, it's beautiful, but it is
the spiritual ego as well.
Yes. The spiritual ego is the ego, though. Yeah.
No, I know, but I mean, the ego evolves into a spiritual ego.
Oh, yeah.
You got loads of conscious people thinking they're compassionate, thinking that, but it's actually the spiritual ego. They develop a spiritual ego that's got all these tools, a whole toolkit, and it's actually, I mean, it's been my experience of like using those same tools, you know, like almost against, you know, the body. Because the mind's like, oh yeah, you know, it's been an interesting journey with this whole integrating with spiritual ego.
No,
because it hides, very subtle, so subtle. You know, you're so subtle. It's like, yay, spiritual ego. So that's what I've been doing. I've been integrating my spiritual ego aspects of, because it's it's been an interesting journey. And the body, embodying the soul into my body, and just hence I think like root chakra. Because we're in this earth plane, so it's like, let's embody our soul's gifts and you know, embody the knowingness and like, yay, this is me.
Yeah.
I look forward to that show, Scott, about the ego.
No, thank you.
Back on again, Scott.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I'd love to.
Huge topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, actually. About the whole compassion for yourself. Actually, it touches it. It's in very interesting synchronicity, because we're following a program of mindfulness, and we're on the stage of kindness, being sort of being present and mindful with kindness to yourself, to any aspects that show up. The mind's trick of, you know, going off on a tangent, all aspects of the self, while you're remaining present, and gently bring yourself back to your breath or to whatever it is you're focusing on.
Yeah, not battling with the mind and kind of seeing it as an enemy when it wanders off, when you're trying to remain present, because you just create this internal struggle that you don't need to create. Mm-hmm. The mind is meant to do that. It's meant to it's about acceptance rather than fighting, and identifying with all aspects of ourselves, like you said about destroying the ego as well. I think that's a mistake people make, that they feel they have to kind of dissolve or get rid of the ego, rather than kind of identifying that it is part of who we are, certainly at least in the physical. And you can't kind of get rid of it. You have to learn to work with it and understand it and recognize it for what it is, and understand that it's a facet of who you are. And whilst it doesn't always do what you want, or that, you know, doesn't help, sometimes it has a function and it's there for a reason. And we chose to come into these bodies and become third density beings and have these aspects of ourselves. And it's about like you said about what's the word you used, a word like inclusion, like kind of integrating these parts of ourselves, rather than trying to strip them away and kind of cut them off, which has been a big one for me over the years, actually, because you end up in this internal battle with yourself, and you end up hating bits of yourself which are meant to be there.
You see, as you what you said there is brilliant, but as you go through this journey with the work with the ego, what basically happens is you don't destroy the ego, but the ego transforms, and so it becomes more integrated, but at the same time as well, it then shifts and becomes more in alignment with your higher divine aspect. And so, you know, I do hear the term from some people that, you know, you have to work on your ego for the rest of your life. You do to a point, but you get past a certain point with the ego, where, you know, your ego then becomes in a space where it is significantly transformed in such a way that it no longer is the driving force and the driver of all your experiences, but it's more, it's something you can now observe. Mindfulness is fantastic what you're doing, because it's wonderful for that. And as you know, with mindfulness, what is really, really powerful about mindfulness is that you become a master observer, and you can feel, you know when you first do it, you can feel yourself going in, you can feel yourself going into a part of yourself that's going to react, can't you? You can literally, it's not easy to be mindful all the time, but you can feel yourself going into this part, and then you can stop it. I at the moment I'm starting to teach, or have been teaching, heartfulness, and so it is similar to mindfulness, but it's, for me, it's the new aspect it's a new technique that will be more in alignment with, as the Arcturians talked about, the era of love. So the techniques I showed you there is similar to what I teach, but it's a bit more involved, and it's where you become very mindful, but from your heart. So you're watching everything from your heart, and also you're connecting through the various, each one of your chakras and is a multi-dimensional portal, every one of them, because it has so many different levels, so many different dimensions. And once you learn to master, to step into that space and connect, and towards the end of letting go of a lot of the patterns, we have to get to a point. Now, when we first start, we try to deal with the ego from the mind. So we're trying to deal with the mind from the mind. Now, doesn't make any sense, does it? We're trying to deal with the mind from the mind. And so at some point, you've got to deal with the mind when you're transcending it. And so heartfulness that I teach and I practice is where you start to transcend the mind. It isn't avoidance, because avoidance and transcending is not the same, because when you transcend, you can still see it and you can still let go of it and acknowledge it and love it, but you're not caught up in it. It's not something that really is you're very much embroiled in, that's causing you to find it very hard to let go of. So yeah, and so as you go along, at some stage with your journey, for those that are ready, you then have to learn to transcend and align with your higher self through your inner divine essence. And at the same time, as you align, you start to bring this energy in and embody it. And as you do this, you just watch that ego aspect of yourself play out in its own way, without giving it any energy or giving it any focus. And that is where that's where the mind, at some point, for those that want to truly embody God's light and go to, as you said, the God consciousness, and that's what is where we're all heading right now. The mind needs to become very, very weakened, because the mind, if you think of it this way, okay, the mind and how it's structured can never truly allow you to understand God, because the mind doesn't understand God. The mind understands God as a concept, understands God as a knowledge, but it doesn't understand God as an experience, as an energy. And so at some point with your journey, you're going to have to get to a point where you are able to really let go of that mindset. You know, we're constantly working on transforming it, and that's why, you know, for any practice a person has, it is so important that, you know, if you are using a mind-based practice, which is fine because it depends on what level you're at, but if you're trying to shift across to work to really transmute, transform, and just raise the frequency of that, and let go of some of these structures that can end up being like, you know, they can look like this above your head, all sorts of things. You truly have to be working with angels, ascended masters, higher self guides, because the way they can work with you, you know, just by sitting every day silently with them and asking them to really deconstruct and transmute the mind and bring it into a space of oneness, in that silence they can do the most. Remember, the most amazing, profound shift your minds will go through is in silence, because in silence there's nothing to grab onto, there's nothing to hold on to, there's nothing that it can then, you know, as wonderful Tanya said, the spiritual ego. You know, remember, the spiritual ego cannot exist beyond a certain point in your in level of spiritual development. So it can only hide up to a certain point. Beyond that point, it simply can't go to that point because it's too high. And so once you do start to really go into that higher place and you really do connect, you can feel very strongly, like right now I'm in between my physical and my higher bit aspect. I can feel my mind's there. I can feel it wanting to go, come on, I want to come in, I want to be part of this, I want to really take over this. I can feel it wanting to come in, but as it tries to come in, I reconnect higher wise, and so it means that it's got no energy to pull me down with. Yeah. And so when it comes to mastery moving forward with that, you've got to get to a level of mastery where you are connecting up and in, and at the same time You are really aware when you're coming down, and when it tries to, you just bring in that love. You're bringing that energy to transmute it, to transform it, so it becomes so significantly weakened. And that is your aim, to significantly transform your ego. So weakened's not the right term, but where it becomes weakened is the right term, because it becomes weakened, whereas your other part of yourself becomes the stronger aspect of who you are in that experience.
Where you operate from.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, so where your focus is determines how you experience your reality.
Well, we've come to the end of time now, Scott. Thank you so much. It's been
Thank you, Scott.
Really
Oh, you're very
that.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me
Thank
on.
you, Rach.
Yeah.
Thank you,
it's been
Taylor.
a pleasure. And we'll say thank you to all the people who joined, even though some of them dropped early. So it's
Yeah, cool.
been good to have a group together today.
Yeah. Okay, we'll definitely have you on again, Scott.
Yes, absolutely.